Sister Silverine, Ambassador Extraordinaire of PAIN, Parental Alienation Awareness International Network, and we are talking about From Pain to Healing, where we're going to have a series of talks on Sundays from 5:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sankhya TV. Thank you.
Sister Silverine, once again, thank you for making time, sitting with me, having these conversations about a lot of varying topics, but those especially affecting the human being, those affecting people who are victims of parental alienation. And on last week's episode, we were speaking about the effect of a parent, or the expectations of parents rather, on their children, which leads them to controlling behavior, trying to dominate the child, stifling, let's say, in a sense, the child's potential. And one idea or question that came to my mind is from depression, like you were saying, where a child becomes depressed and they start having violent thoughts in their mind, so they might contemplate suicide, for example. Is their violence only limited to self-harm or to their individual self, or what are the effects?
In most cases, in these cases, mostly they think about themselves. And if it's not possible, like they don't see the way where they could escape and take their own lives, then they try exercising that violence on others. So you would realize that this one who is suffering inside starts speaking to others harshly. They start speaking to others in a rough way, in a, let's say, quarreling way. And all these quarrels and all these rough talks and harsh talks are actually reflecting how that soul is suffering internally. Each time someone speaks to you in a harsh way, in a rough way, or in a violent way, understand that that one is suffering inside. But people generally does not understand that it is a form of suffering. They don't even know it's a form of suffering. Because when you start living in a certain way, in a certain pattern for a long time, then you begin to feel it's normal. Let's say a child born in a home where the parents are accustomed to speaking loud. That child will grow up understanding that this is the way to speak. And then, of course, he will start speaking loud also. Until he meets someone who speaks softer, and he cannot understand, well, why this one is speaking softer. And for him, this one who speaks soft and sweet has a problem, not knowing that he is the one who has the problem. Because natural nature of a human being is not loud, is not harsh, is not rough, is not peaceless. But the natural nature of every human being is peace, is love, is happiness, is to be calm, to be serene. That is the reason why even though someone may be peaceless for some time, they will naturally go back to be calm and peaceful. It's like you will never sustain an anger for too long. If you sustain an anger for too long, after that, you get weak. Do you know why? It takes a lot of energy to get angry. So, when you get angry, what starts happening? You're consuming your own energy. You're burning up yourself. You are destroying yourself. And you can see nowadays there are children who have a lot of anger in them. Small children, angry. And that anger results in them being violent. We see in these Facebook little videos how boy children especially, I wouldn't say girls don't do it, but mostly boys, little boys, and they are literally hitting their mother, beating up their mother, telling her, you don't speak to me like that, you can't tell me what to do. Why so much anger? Why so much violent way in speaking? It is because, one, it could be that that child was being controlled from the time he knew himself. It is because that child had been suffering from some form of, let us call it abuse, or could be he was suppressed, or who knows what, could be even physically some form of violence. So all of this shows up in the way the child speaks, the way the child thinks, the way the child looks at others. All of this shows what is happening to this child internally. The child himself will not be able to explain, well, I am like this because of this reason. But there is a suffering inside. That child is in pain, is in emotional pain, but he is not able to express himself, because he himself don't know that he is in pain. But the simple fact that he bursts out, for example, he speaks loud and he can curse and he can tell anyone whatever he wants without control, clearly shows that this child is suffering some form of mental, emotional, or even physical abuse. So parental alienation can also help deal with these kinds of issues. Now, what am I feeding my child with? Each time I speak to my child, what am I giving my child? When I speak to my child in a loud tone of voice, what am I doing to the mind of my child? And each time this child receives this kind of words that comes with anger, he is actually emotionally and mentally staying further or going further and further away from that parent. Because no human being would love to live in a violent atmosphere, because it is not natural. A violent atmosphere is not a natural atmosphere. It is definitely an unnatural atmosphere where no one is comfortable to be in, not even the one who is creating it. So there are so many things to look at when you're talking about what happens to the mind of a child that is being or growing up in this atmosphere where there is, let's call it, violent acts around him.
Now you mentioned that, even parental alienation could contribute to the child acting violently, to becoming depressed or having violent tendencies towards themselves and towards others. Why then? Well, firstly, the parent is trying to control the child and the other person, the other parent, but using the child to do so. Why would a child feel a need to do this, to give in to the parent, using them? Why would a child do this? Is it out of a sense of duty as a child, as a good child? Is it out of a sense of fear? Or is it out of a sense of having been conditioned to be controlled?
There could be so many reasons. Let's say one parent is fooling the child by buying lots of things for him. He is getting whatever he wants. So here the father buys whatever toy, whatever iPad and phone, anything the child wants, the father is buying. So the child will feel that, okay, my father gives me everything, I love my father. And so whatever his father tell him to do, he feel that it is his duty to do it against the mother, and it could be vice versa. So never know who is to be blamed. So one is that, okay, because mother or father gives him whatever he wants, he feels he has a right to go against the other parent. And of course, secondly, if one of the parent, could be mother or father, give him a lot of love, really cherish him, give him the attention, give him the care, that affection, whatever he needs, that emotional support that he needs, that all child needs actually. If a parent gives him all that emotional support, then he feels that it is his duty to support that parent. And naturally, he can go against the other parent. Two ways. And of course, as you mentioned also, that could also be ways, whether if the father is angry with that child, violent with him, and out of fear, he is only doing what he's doing to please the father or the mother. Could be either one. So fear could also lead that child to do a lot of wrong things or go against the other parent. It could be multiple factors. More than one factors. So yes, children could be conditioned from an early age, and they could be groomed from an early age to go against the other parent. It do happen. It happens a lot. And of course, in the end, each child has their own mind. I mean, you can tell a child what to do, but there are some children who have a mind of their own, and no matter what you tell them to do, they will not do it. That means he is his own character. I do what I want to do. And you have small children telling you like that, and they will tell you no mom, I'm not going to do that. Or they will say, no dad, I will not do that to mom. Very few, but you can get them. Because these are the ones who start using their own intelligence from a young age. So yes, each one have their own nature, their own behavior, their own character. And if the child is weak-minded, then a parent will know how to use that child. A weak-minded child. But if a child is strong-headed, as we say, strong-minded, have character, then even though the mother or the father is trying to use that child against the other parent, that child could put his foot down and say, no, I'm not going to do it. So not necessarily a child will do exactly what a mother or a father want him to do. Some may even do the opposite. And you may get stories where the mother or the father might tell him, well, go and tell your father so and so. And he will go there and he will not say anything. So the message did not reach the other side. Or we'll tell him a completely different story that caused a bigger conflict. And so many things happen in these relationships. And so many things could happen.
Now, so far we are looking at from the child's perspective, because we are focusing on looking at the children. But let's say as the parent of the receiving end of alienation, who is realizing that the child is being manipulated or used. So we are looking at the child who has given into the commands or the manipulation. The parent on the receiving end, what would you recommend? Let's say looking at the child and thinking, okay, well, the child has a mind of their own. How, not trying to get revenge on the other parent, but how do they get through to their child to develop some sort of relationship with the child for the purpose of having a relationship with their child. What advice you would give to try to reach a
Out
child?
to the child.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the parents are wise enough and to understand, well, okay, this child is being used against me, for example. And of course, the child may be innocent. Maybe, maybe not. That's a, between commas means the possibility. And the child is not aware that he's being used in this way. Because he think, okay, if mommy said to go and tell daddy this is what the child will do, naturally. Or if daddy say go and tell mommy this, then that is what the child will do. The child will not understand that he is being used or being manipulated. But the other parent on the receiving end, as you say, if that parent understand, well, okay, this child is being used for this reason. A good, let us call it wise or intelligent parent, would take it up upon himself to sit with that child and explain to that child, well, this is not the way we should be living. If you want to be with daddy, then don't bring what mommy said to daddy. Let us both have a good relationship. Of course, you have to speak to your child in such a way and explain to him that whatever he's being fed with, which is not pleasing to either him or the father, he should not keep that in his mind. Explain to the child that these things cause more damage than good, if the child is able to understand then. Or if the father or the mother understand that whatever is coming from the other end could do more damage to this child than they expect or they think, at least they should stop doing it. Because try to understand the child's mind. If here daddy is telling the child to go and tell mommy when you go home that daddy said she must not go out with so and so. Can you imagine what is going on in your child's mind when you are telling him, go and tell your mommy so and so and so? Because the child loves his mommy also. He don't want to see his mother get hurt. But the father telling the mother to go and tell your father so and so, or mother telling the child to go and tell your father so and so, sit down and understand what is happening in this child's mind. You are damaging the mind of a child. You are damaging the child's emotions and feelings and everything. So understand the damages that you are causing upon another individual simply by you having a lot of, who knows, selfish motives or unfulfilled desires, or you want to accomplish something using this child. Put yourself in the shoes of this child and see if you will be comfortable in his shoes. Which means if you will be comfortable doing what he is doing or what you have him doing.
Now, what about the parent who realizes because the child may be having anger issues or maybe appearing depressed from being controlled? So we are assuming in the sense that this parent is not the one controlling, but they are being controlled by the other parent, and recognizing that the child is being negatively affected. What advice would you give such a parent on how to approach their child and deal with their child? So this is not about the alienation effect of parents, but in someone who cares about their child, wanting to help. What would you recommend?
I recommend that each parent sit with their child, if is possible on a daily basis, and you question your child and ask your child, well, tell me, how are you? What are you thinking? How do you feel? And you see for yourself what your child is going through. Understand what is happening to your child. Understand what your child is going through. And when you understand what that child is going through, only then you can help that child. If you don't know what your child is going through. What is happening with your child? How can you help? But for you to help, you have to understand yourself first. It's like if you're not feeling well and you go to the doctor and the doctor tell you, well, tell me how you're feeling. But you know you're not feeling well, but at the same time you don't know how to explain to the doctor how you're feeling. How are you going to explain to the doctor how you're feeling and how the doctor is going to treat you? So for you to understand what is happening with that child or in that child's mind, you have to understand how you are first. If you don't understand what is going on with you, within you, you could never understand what is happening within someone else or in someone else. Understanding yourself first. So it's like, in this case, the parents need a first-hand understanding of understanding their own selves. Understanding their own emotional needs, their mental needs, their physical needs, their spiritual needs, and see where they need to either change something, give up something, leave something, or learn something. And when you understand yourself, only then you could understand, what my child is going through, what a child is going through. So I would say here it's a question of first self-learning. When a parent learn about himself first, only then will he be able to understand what is happening to his child. And only then will he be able to correct the child, help the child make changes where it's necessary. So if you want to help your child, first you have to learn to help yourself. So now I invite you to a short reflection where we are going to look firstly into ourselves before we look to others. Firstly, find a comfortable seat where you can sit in a relaxed position, because only in a relaxed position will you be able to think well. And so as I sit here, I become aware of my thoughts. I am aware of the effect my thoughts are having on my mind, on my feelings, my emotions, as well as my body. And as I am aware of myself and what is happening within me, I begin to understand what weakness I need to let go of, or what strength I need to grow. I am aware of my own defects, my own weaknesses, my own vices, as well as my own virtues and my own strengths. And the more I begin to understand myself, the more I'll be able to understand someone else. And in this understanding, I begin to realize that whatever is happening within me is a reflection of someone who is in front of me. I begin to see others in me. And as I begin to see others in me, somehow I have the ability to only look at the weaknesses in others instead of looking at their virtues or their strengths. But I understand that I need to change that perspective, where I can only see the goodness, the virtues, the values, the potentials and talents in others. And as I begin to see all these goodness in others, I begin to give the goodness more attention. And whatever I give attention to is what will naturally start growing. And so if I give attention to the peace, the love, the contentment, the potentials and the skills in others, I help that one to grow. If I look at the talents of others and I commend that one for his good talents, I help that one to develop. And so by looking at my child's potentials, by looking at my child's virtues and talents, I begin to praise him, commend him. And the more I see the goodness in my child, the more positive I am with my child, the more I allow his goodness to grow, the more I allow his talents, his skills, his virtues to grow. And so I help him to grow spiritually, mentally, as well as emotionally. If I see any weak emotions and feelings in my child, I have the power to help him to get out of whatever weakness, whatever defect, whatever anti-values he may be having. And I begin to understand that the power of positivity has a more beautiful effect on the minds of every individual. And so if I want my child, or anyone for that matter of fact, to change, then I must only look at their goodness. I must only look at their talents, their skills, their potentials. And by so doing, I'll be able to help each individual to grow in a more positive way. Thank you, and Om Shanti.
Join us globally every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Sankhya Television as Parental Alienation Awareness International Network, PAIN, presents Ambassador Extraordinaire Brahma Kumari's Sister Silverine Manguru with the series From Pain to Healing.
This program is sponsored by Sampex Limited, networking societies for a better future.